It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Thanks for joining us, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I'll be your host this morning. You're joining us in the third of four segments. If you're just catching up to us, we are looking at things which are just terrifying in what's happening with our nation. And I'm going to introduce you in this segment to your future master. Because these kids that are being raised today are being groomed to be one of two things. Either a cog in the wheel of tyranny or an acquiescent, quiet slave. Those who have the psychological aberration that they need, like a drug, power and authority. They will be your masters. And everyone else is being injected with the mind-numbing apathy and the indoctrination that it's okay to be a slave. The benefits outweigh the negatives. This story is about a woman who was appalled when she read an essay asking 8th graders if they'd rather be slaves or factory owners. And I read the entire story. It's posted up on our Facebook page, and I want you to read it. Posted up on America's Voice Now, Facebook, and Patriot FB. And I want you to read it because the part that they've really not articulated here is not that these kids were asked this question. That seems to be the outrage of the story. But because it's written by CBS, they never asked the question, why would our youth possibly believe that it's better to choose slavery because those slaves had free housing, free food, and they had free protection? God help us. What are we thinking? We, as a nation, as a society, are cooked. We're finished. Because if this is the way that our children think now, due exclusively to the indoctrination of the dependence addiction that they are taught in schools, in media, in television, in churches, Because if this is the way that our kids think, based on the indoctrination of the dependence addiction that we have injected into them like a drug, then we are flippin' done as a nation. This is the result of your Common Core. This is the result of your New education. This is the result of your leftist liberalism. This is the result of the brain damage that you were injecting into our society. This is the Common Core, all right. A common mentality that enslavement is better than liberty and freedom, than self-governance and self-reliance and independence. We have fallen. And the empirical evidence to prove that point is so vast, so overwhelming, so mountainous, so obvious. We cannot avoid the truth. You can hide from it. You can run from it. You can pretend it's not happening. But it's because you refuse to believe that we've turned our nation into an enslavement state. Because you won't lift the mask off of your eyes. Because you fear the truth and you've become complacent and co-opted. And you are fearful. You are fearful to necessitate the action that will endanger that which you so treasure. Your precious. Precious what? Precious peace? Precious enslavement to an indoctrination box that sits in every room in your home? This happened in Detroit. His mother is fuming over the fact that these middle school students in 8th grade were given this essay question, and it was determined that the question had to be answered as in-class work. It wasn't allowed to be taken home. I wonder why. Now, the woman is black, and obviously her daughter is. And she's got a 13-year-old daughter who attends this Novi Middle School. And she couldn't believe that this 8th grade American history assignment asked the students, which would you rather be, a slave or a factory worker during the Industrial Revolution? Now, the remainder of the article, because it's written by CBS, completely ignores the one aspect of this that they should be asking. We'll get to that in a moment. So the question was, an essay for in-class work. Don't let the moms and dads see. Which would you rather be, a slave or a factory worker during the Industrial Revolution? And the mother's response, which I understand her outrage, but I think she missed the greater point. Here's what she said. The first thing I thought was, how can you even compare the two? As far as I'm concerned, they are diametrically opposing circumstances. You have on one end a slave that is not free, who has no free will. And on the other end, you have a factory worker, and although it was in the Industrial Revolution, they still had a free choice, and they had a choice to walk away if they wanted to. Steve Matthews, he's the superintendent of this Novi Community School District. The word community in the school district perhaps ought to be comrade. And he says the essay was based on a Michigan content expectation. Subtle words for Common Core. It's a state-led initiative, I promise. The Michigan content expectation says that 8th grade students should be able to explain the differences in the lives of free blacks, including those who escaped from slavery, with the lives of free whites and enslaved people. Now, the mother has taken the time to independently teach her daughter about African American history. And our daughter came home upset, offended, and in tears. Here's why. The majority of the class felt that they would rather be a slave than a factory worker. Let me say that for you again, because, you know, there's no DVR on a radio and you can't back it up, but I'm going to say it for you again. The majority of the class felt that they would rather be a slave than to be a factory worker. From here, the story just descends into insanity, because the mother says the daughter was extremely confused by that, knowing what slaves went through. She couldn't understand why anyone would choose that. The rationale by those students to choose slavery was that they had free housing, free food, and they had free protection. But the argument that she and I put forth was that those things were not free. I'm not arguing with her positioning. I'm arguing with the fact that no one in this entire story is taking umbrage that our children actually believe that they would rather be slaves for free housing, free food, and free protection over independence, free will, self-reliance, self-governance. See, they're pointing to it and they're saying, but these kids just don't understand that that came with a price. The price of giving up your freedom. But I'm asking the question, why would a majority of the class believe that that was appropriate? Let's forget explaining to them why it's not appropriate. I got to question the fact that they even have that concept in their minds. So the mother had a meeting with the school's principal, Stephanie Schreiner. Well, she didn't feel like her concerns were addressed properly. And this whole thing is just so frustrating. She didn't feel like the principal addressed it properly, so she brought it up to the school board. And here's what she said. I have 4 kids that are in that school system, and I've had issues in the past from a racial standpoint, and I've always addressed it. I feel that it was an unfair question to begin with, and I don't want anyone to have to endure the pain that my daughter had to endure when she was asked to write this essay. We have children that have impressionable minds, and I want to make sure that the impressions that we leave on them are accurate and truthful and honest. With all due respect, this is not a black issue and a white issue. This is not an issue of history. This is an issue of present existence. Mother went on to say that when we're educating students, we need to make sure that we're educating all the students and not just the majority. We need to understand how the minority feels. No one should have to be asked a question as to whether you would want to be free or not free. As far as I'm concerned, there's a simple response, and that's that you'd rather be free. Yet the students were saying that they would rather be slaves, and to me, whatever the school was trying to extract out of this assignment, they're not there yet. I'd say they're not there yet. They're not even in the right universe, ma'am. You see, what they should be teaching the children is that under no circumstances is there any condition under which slavery would be tolerable over freedom. And the following reasons. But they're couching it all under black versus white issues, and it's not. James went on to ask, this mother, her name is James, Mrs. James, and she asked the principal, Stephanie Schreiner, if she thought the question would still stand, the way it was written, if it were applied to the Jewish Holocaust. The principal dismissed that argument, saying the focus is on American history, which goes to show you exactly where this principal's mindset is at. And it's not just her mindset, ladies and gentlemen. It is the education system throughout the nation. You see, they're talking about a symptom, but they're ignoring the disease. The disease is not about black and white. The disease is not about historical slavery. The disease is about willingness to accept and acquiesce yourself to slavery. And why would a majority of our children believe that free food and housing and protection is worthy of that trade? That you would give your virtue, your life, for those comforts. I'm appalled. I am just stunned. Because I look back at Samuel Adams, who said to us, if you love wealth better than you love your liberty, if you love the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, then go from us in peace. God, don't you see? If you love free housing and free food and free protection better than liberty, if you love servitude, if you love quiet acquiescence to the inhumane, the inhuman, against the principles that separate us and make us sentient and independent in our thought, who give us free will, your right to see and function and do as the best you can with your life. If you love wealth, free housing, free food, free protection, better than liberty, better than the animating contest of freedom, which you may win or lose based upon your own ability, based upon your faith, your ability to strive, your willingness to stand, your willingness to strive. Then just go from us in peace. We don't want your counsel nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you, and may your chains set lightly upon you. And may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. That phrase, that statement should be the only thing necessary to respond to this entire article. Why don't the teachers read that? These children are growing up to become our overseers. These children are growing to be our leaders. And they haven't even understood yet, at 13 years old, and therefore never will, understood the animating contest of freedom. They will never know that failure is only the beginning of success. That striving and failing is the teaching that enables you to succeed the next time around. They will never know the joy and the heartache of failure and or success. Never. Because they've been apathized. They've been convinced that slavery is better than liberty. It's better than freedom. And that they should fear the animating contest. We can't even angrily reject it, because this is what we let them learn. And the cost of this and the fault of this falls back on us. You see, at 13, they're only learning what we teach them. And we have failed. We have failed them. We have failed ourselves. We have failed our past. And we have failed our future. And we have no one to blame but us. We're going to take a break. You can contact me at Mike at americasvoicenow.org. You can catch this on YouTube. Share it with some friends. If you learned anything, if you felt like there was any spark, do so.